and welcome. You're watching Undercurrent, where you can find out what's been happening around Perth this week. I'm Lucy Marchant. The video gaming industry is thriving here in Perth, and this week, gamers showcase their work at the Perth Town Hall. Our Undercurrent reporter Elise went to check it out.
The best in WA gaming is on show here today at the Perth Town Hall. From the latest developments in PC and mobile entertainment to more traditional pursuits, there is something here for the whole family. How did this festival come to be?
A few years ago, our previous operations manager for our main group, Let's Make Games, Anthony Sweet, was running a yearly get-together of game developers, and we decided we needed to grow it up a bit bigger. So 3 years ago, he created the first Perth Games Festival. We ran it here in the town hall, had about similar numbers, much less developers, and kind of took it up from there and slowly grown the event.
And what can you tell us about the WA gaming industry at the moment?
It's in an interesting place. This year's seen a lot of major developments. We've seen multiple developers release their games on console for the first time, which is excellent. We have also seen Stirfire gain investment funding and work towards getting a PSVR release title, which is really good to see. And more people are finding their feet. Also the SK and FTI Level 1 space was a great working place for developers and still is, just a bit smaller in the Perth State Library. We're trying to figure out which way we're going. Everyone's doing their own solutions, trying to figure out what works. And a lot of us just want to work on games as much as we can. So hopefully soon we'll end up seeing more people being able to be hired and work on games with other people.
And why is the gaming industry important?
It's very important because it's a creative outlet that you can't really find in other forms. Because games come together, not only the artistic measure, but also the programming, the creative game design required, etc. It pulls in so many skills, either from a group of people or one person with a very unique vision. It just gives a lot of people that amazing outlet to create something which is unlike any other form we have. And people want to do it here in Perth, which is great to see. They don't want to all go to Melbourne. They want to stay here, take it the Perth way and do what they can. So we're seeing people like Oscar with his World's Fastest Pizza and his space game at the moment. People like Byte Sprite with their multiplayer title. Stirfire making their Symphony of the Machine game. So it's really good. We're seeing all these different outlets, different ideas, and that's what games allow them to do. Allow people to just do so much.
The festival is our way of showcasing all the games that are made in Western Australia, because there's actually a lot going on in terms of people making games for fun or for art or for serious learning purposes, and we really like to share that with the wider community and get other people involved in making their own games for whatever reasons they like.
And were there any standout games today that you can think of?
Oh, there's a lot of really good games actually. It kind of depends on the experience you want. We have quite a few virtual reality setups, which are great. People can put on their headsets and get involved in the world. Symphony of the Machine by Stirfire is a really good one for that. They have a puzzle game where you control the weather, which is quite interesting. I saw a little kid up playing it before. He was trying to interact with all the things like it was the real world, which is quite exciting. Another good one is Bramble Lash, which is a 2-player game. It looks really nice. It's sort of top-notch quality. I'd really recommend it.
What more can you tell us about the Perth game scene and how it's been progressing recently compared to other places in Australia and around the world?
In Australia, the games industry is also actually quite well connected. Everyone likes to see what people are doing. Compared to, say, the eastern states, we've got a lot of smaller studios or 1 or 2 person teams, but there's a lot of developers actually working away behind the scenes for whatever reason they like, be it to have fun or for work.
Why do you love games?
I like the experiences, both that you can play yourself and that you can help convey to other people. So you just can create whole worlds and everyone can have fun together through games. In whatever kind of format you want, whether it's tabletop games or PC, mobile, virtual reality, there's a lot of options out there and you can share it with other people.
Can you tell us about your game that we have here?
This game is Corporate Combat. It's a side-view fighting game set in an office space. The idea being you can sort of beat up your employee or your manager or just anyone from your workforce really without the need for faces and recognizable aspects. So that's why I have the red and the blue characters.
What are some stereotypes about the gaming industry that aren't true or you'd like to address?
It's not just one button. You don't just click it and you make a game. It's a lot of work involved, a lot of testing, a lot of bugs, a lot of long nights, sleepless nights. But also, it's very rewarding at the end. Like you see today, people playing a game, you just have that sense of just pride, I guess, with the work. So it's worth it.
What do you think of the event today?
I think it's great. It's really enjoyable for family and friends, and it's just non-stop fun, I guess.
And how did you find out about the event?
I heard from a friend who heard from another friend, so I think the word of the actual event is spreading really far, and I think it's going to gain more attention.
It was actually from a friend a couple of weeks ago. I went to visit him and he happens to have one of the games on display here. I haven't been to a game festival in Perth for probably 10 years.
And what do you think of the event overall from what you've seen?
Pretty good. It's good to see all the Perth developers showing off their stuff. There's some interesting games around.
Seeing some of the really unique and exciting games that some of the young people here are coming up with, there's some really great stuff here. We had a great look around. We've taken turns sort of going around and having a look, and yeah, there's some great new talent in Perth games development.
And what do you think about WA gaming industry at the moment?
I think it's really taking off. There's a lot of exciting things happening. I think VR is a really big sort of new potential medium that's going to be sort of growing, and to see some guys getting into that already is really exciting.
From the Perth Game Festival 2016, I'm Elise Van Aken for Undercurrent.
A report recently came out stating that women wouldn't have equal economic rights for at least 170 years. Laura went to find out more about The Department of Child Protection and Family Services has recently released a new strategy. Can you tell us about the changes?
We've recently launched an earlier intervention and family support strategy named Building Stronger Families. It's a really important strategy. It's about really looking at how can we, in a collective effort, both across all the government departments, not-for-profit services and the community, can really all join together to support families who are at very grave risk of their children coming into care. So this is about earlier intervention.
What has prompted the need for this new strategy?
Yeah, look, here in Western Australia, our absolute primary focus is to keep children safely with families. We recognise that children need to belong. They do better when they're in their families, when it's safe to do so. But as we look at, we've had a lot of success in recent years of reducing the number of children coming into care in non-Aboriginal parts of our community. But very sadly, for particularly Aboriginal families, the numbers of children continue to increase, and we're very concerned about that. We're very concerned about the large numbers of children in care here in Western Australia, and we think we can do better at redirecting those families from the statutory system.
Why is that? Why are Aboriginal families struggling?
Look, I think there's lots of reasons for that. Most Aboriginal families in Australia are doing really well. They're thriving, and we thankfully don't even come to meet them in the department. But there are a small number, a small proportion that are really struggling. Like all families that come into contact with our department, there is some feature of trauma, of intergenerational trauma that they have experienced. They're struggling with drug and alcohol misuse, profound family and domestic violence, the mental health of parents in particular.
So you speak of earlier prevention. What sort of tactics are you planning on using?
Yeah. Look, number one, agencies need to join together and share information to make sure we're identifying families that are in strife and are most likely to have their children removed, so they're at greatest risk of their children coming into care. We think we can do better to organise ourselves to identify those families in a more sophisticated way, and with the absolute purpose of being able to then tailor some really intensive support to their specific to their needs, so we can do everything we can to prevent that child coming into care. We think we can look at how our family support networks here in Western Australia can play a greater role in providing intensive family support. It's a fantastic program. There's 3 networks here in the metropolitan area. Of course, we'd like to see them expand, but we are looking quite specifically through the strategy about what greater role can that network play to bring that support to the families. We're very, very keen to see how we can partner with Aboriginal community controlled organisations, work with parents of children in care, Aboriginal people, other professionals to see what services can we design or things we can do differently that will make a difference. We're particularly interested in bringing a lot more intensive practical in-home support to families, so we can really help, we can walk alongside families and help them get from A to B and then B to C, particularly when things are profoundly difficult and they need a lot of support.
So your department is trying to be proactive and you're trying to work with other departments and collaborate. What other departments are you working with?
Yeah, look, through the development of the strategy, we've spent 12 months talking to all government departments in the human services, all the not-for-profit agencies out there in the community delivering sort of services in this area. We've talked to parents of children in care, we've talked to children in care to really try and think through what would make a difference, what should we be doing differently. So we've had a really fantastic engagement with people. We are also looking at a joint outcomes framework, which really means how can we measure and identify the impact of our collective effort. You know, we want to see the reduction of children coming into care, but we also want to see the reduction of family and domestic violence, young people be coming into contact with the criminal justice system, you know, reduction in homelessness, and we think joining together and looking at what outcomes are we seeking, and then let's measure them and see what our collective impact can be, and really use that information for continuous improvement.
Up next, Bass asks the public what they think about the changes in student loans, especially directed at university art degrees.
For some time now, there's been talk about human microchip implants. Is this something Australians would consider? The Swedish are talking about implementing it, and in America, they're also considering bringing it on as part of their healthcare.
24 hours ago, I had a chip implanted in my hand, and it's going to allow me to open doors. And it can operate the lifts.
3, going down.
And it will allow me to interact with any system in the digital world. For instance, when I wave my phone over it, it can transfer my virtual business card.
We're taking to the streets of Perth to find out what Aussies have to say about human microchip implants.
The Orwellian dream coming true, yeah, you know, the big brother. I think, I'm not sure how they are justifying this, but I think it will be a better way for the big powers to track any information about the people, so I don't like that.
I really don't think it's necessary because I actually think the government holds enough of our information. Microchipping is okay for animals so that you can find out where they are, but I really don't think it's necessary for humans at all.
Nah, it's not necessary. It's not needed.
It's a good idea when you go into your house and when you step into the house and things that you like to hear, the music or whatever.
Personally, I'd say it's a bit pathetic. Personally, if you're going to do that kind of stuff, just flick a switch on yourself. If America's doing it, that's cool for them, or Australia, we're an independent country.
If it's something for just pure laziness, like turning on the light, then yeah, I don't agree with it at all.
You're rushed to a hospital unconscious with no ID or medical history, but thanks to a microchip under your skin, it's all there.
What about if it's for health reasons and accessing people's medical records?
If it's something that's going to help someone in their daily life, such as their health and other things, if it's going to help them, then I agree with it.
Oh yeah, definitely. If it's for healthcare reasons, I'd support that. But if it's just like turn on a switch at home or anything electronic, I mean, like, yeah, do it yourself.
If it's used to access anything other than medical records, then it's sort of wrong. It's an invasion of privacy. However, if it helps to save someone's life in a crisis, then it's maybe a necessary evil.
But there are other ways in which you can actually keep track of your medical records. There's lots of apps and things like that. So microchipping, no, definitely not.
Who can get into these things? You've got hackers, you've got wireless. It's risk versus reward, you know? How can you secure these things, really? If you can start getting computer viruses in the human body, then that's scary stuff.
security is always in a big issue, those achievements, but you have to welcome the new technology for the good sakes anyway.
There is both the pros, but you never know if there is a secret agenda to that. So that's what I will be concerned of.
It's bad enough that they can actually track where we are through credit cards and things like that. Definitely don't need it any other way.
Bas Tadros for Undercurrent.
The Kenwick led wet. Do it again. Kenwick led wet. Kenwick wetlands are under threat after a proposed industrial development. Jonathan Davidson investigates.
We are here at the awesome International Arts Festival in Perth. We talked to some staff members, some volunteers and some artists. Let's have a look.
What is the Awesome Festival? That's a very big question. The Awesome Festival is a celebration of wonderful art across all sorts of art forms for children and families. We believe that children deserve the best, and so I bring in, or Awesome brings in, theatre, dance, visual arts, you name it. It's an extravaganza of an event that's really for families. Well, look, back in 1996, some people in Perth realised that Perth didn't actually have a high-quality children's festival. And they were the people at Barking Gecko Theatre Company, which is one of our best theatre companies in Western Australia. They decided to create a festival called Awesome, the Awesome International Arts Festival for Bright Young Things. And they created this festival. Then it became so popular and so big that it was decided that the Awesome Festival would become a company in its own right. So it's been running now since 1996, and it's because somebody had a really great idea about having a big children's festival here.
I've been coming to the Awesome Festival for years as a patron, as a worker, and now as an artist. Yeah, I think this festival is amazing for the kids. There's always a variety of activities, and and some of them range from just entertainment, I guess, to things that really change how the children think about things, set them on new paths of experimentation and exploring. There's some sciencey sort of art things which I guess you might put the telephones into, but there's also social justice theatre pieces, and there's things that get them to think about lighting or how things go together or pull apart. It's very exciting for them. Yeah.
I've been with Awesome Arts for a year and a half. This is my second festival this year. So last year we had over 189,000 people come through the Cultural Centre, and this year, obviously because we're halfway through, we don't quite have a figure yet, but we're aiming for over 200,000. 70% of the program is actually free, so they can do anything from engage with Belgian street theatre artists. There's creative spaces where children can play and learn and create. We've got Imagination Playground, which are big blue building blocks that children can come and they can build and engineer and create. So there are a number of things for people to do. Even if you don't want to purchase a ticket to something, you can still come down and enjoy the festival.
I'm the tutor of the band, so I've got a bunch of kids that I teach in class, like class music, just individuals. And then so I bring them, because I teach a lot of instruments. I teach drums, bass, piano and all that. So those individual students, I bring them together and form a band. The whole idea is to get the kids to start realizing their dreams at a young age. I started playing music when I was very young, and I never actually got the opportunity. I could see some older players were playing in the church band or in other bands, and I thought I could do what they were doing, but because we were young, we were always pushed away and never given an opportunity to actually show what we can do. So I thought I don't want the kids to go through the same thing. So as a teacher, as I teach them, I actually see their ability, because I've got more than 40 students that I actually teach individually, but from all those I pick the ones that I see have got a better potential. So I want them to get that opportunity to start getting them ready for their profession, which is music. And by performing at festivals like this, that actually gives them the experience of being on stage and maybe be a bit famous.
Yeah.
Yeah. and get used to the life of being in the showbiz. That's what I want to achieve out of that. Yeah.
We are here with these lovely kids, and they want to talk with us about this festival. Your name, please?
Olivia Harris.
It's your first time here?
Yes.
Yeah? What are you thinking about?
It's very exciting. There's all these different activities to do, and everything's really cool.
What is the most fun part of this?
Well, making the book was pretty fun.
Do you think this is an awesome festival?
Yes, it's really, really good.
The first time?
No, I've been here a few times, but every year is really good.
Are you having some fun?
Yes, it's really fun.
This is awesome?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. Maura Magalhães for Undercurrent.
The Kenwick wetlands are under threat after a proposed industrial development. Jonathan Davidson investigates. Jonathan Davidson.
International students flock to Perth every year, but who's there to meet them at the airport, or who's there to support them with healthcare and accommodation, etc. There's a service in Perth, it's completely free, and it's called Mate in Oz. And I spoke today with the CEO and founder, who was once an international student himself, and found out how he can help other people.
I came up with the idea because when I came to Australia as an international student myself, and it was very difficult for me to settle in. I had a lot of financial issues while I was at university, and that was paying the fees, and so I had to kind of find a way of making things happen for myself. I've pretty much gone through everything that an international student can go through, and it was the toughest 3.5 years of my life. I got through it, and I was better for it. I was extremely happy. Even now, it's allowed me to start and operate this business. There's nobody that's solely looking after international students. The universities do that, but it's fragmented. So each university has an international student office, but they don't necessarily do the same thing. So we have a standard across the board. This is how we service all the international students from any country, any institution, any university. For anybody, when you go to a new place, it's very difficult to settle in. You want to find new friends, you want to know how to get by, and you also have a bit of anxiety because you're going to be here for the next 3 or 4 years, and you're trying to figure out how that's going to work for you. From our perspective, when you come into Australia, we already have a laid out plan for what it will take for you to succeed. You've got to fill in the blanks with what your expectations are of Australia. When you come in, we'll pick you up from the airport, which is top priority for when you arrive to a new place. You figure out how you're going to get from the airport to where you're going to live. Once we've got you into temporary accommodation, we help you find your permanent accommodation. All the services we provide are free, by the way, and it's only a 3-4 minute application process. We know what university you're going to, and we can line up a few properties for you to have a look at once you've arrived in Perth. And then from there, the next couple of days we'll take you through the properties that are close to your university or that you prefer to live in. And then the universities do an orientation service, but we also provide a practical orientation, which is based on showing you all the places that you need to know within your area and some of the social places that you might want to have a look at depending on what your interests are. Obviously you need banking services, migration services, travel services, job services, certification services, even from just medical, even those things. You have a toothache and all of a sudden it costs you $700 to fix it. We try to make sure they're aware of the things that can happen to help them mitigate those issues. We have a group of students that are in need of assistance. From a corporate social responsibility perspective, they are students in Perth. Most of them end up staying in Perth. So if we can give them a good grounding, most of the international students, I was an international student, so I worked for the Australian government, I worked for Serco on the Fiona Stanley Hospital project. I worked for Siemens on the Fiona Stanley Hospital project. I've worked for HBF and all in procurement. My experience as an international student helped me to get to where I needed to be. It could have been better had I had help. We're trying to create an ecosystem that provides everything that a student will need as soon as they get here. And they need to know that most of what they need to do is basically from within themselves. So we provide them with what they need. They need to take that opportunity. A lot of them come in quite naive. So it's a different culture over here. You've got to first adapt to the culture, and then you've got to adapt to the landscape. If you've arrived from Africa, Africa clearly doesn't look like this from a transport perspective. Basically, we've interacted with most of the agents around Perth and the ones that bring international students here. We work with the universities. We've got about 270 students signed up with us at the moment. It's free for them, and all we seek is corporate sponsorship. And obviously, with the labour hire perspective of it, we're moving towards a self-sustaining model. And that's it. So if we can cover our operational costs, there is no catch. We're here to help international students. Oh, well, they can reach us on our website, which is www.mateinoz.com. And once we have your details, we'll contact you, and then we can set up an appointment to have a discussion.
I'm Angela Albuquerque for Undercurrent.
This week, Perth hosts the 2016 World Masters Athletics Championships with over 4,000 athletes from 95 countries. Let's have